We left for Peru the day after Christmas in 1998. It was a 9-hour red-eye flight, and everyone was wiped out when we got to Lima. Teenagers. We finally made it to Cusco, some 18 hours after we left home. The next morning, we got on a cool South American bus that took us to the Sacred Valley. We stopped at a restaurant along the way for lunch, and the food was weird for our teenagers. When you get to the Urubamba River, you're in the Sacred Valley. We drove alongside the Urubamba River. The buses were loaded with dentists, their families, and on top we had our luggage and portable dental equipment. And the road along the river had some sketchy places. Our destination was the little community of Camicancha. It was at the base of the Andes. Our first job for teenagers was to dig a latrine. There are no bathrooms here. The locals just use the cornfields or some other corner. Fortunately, someone in our group brought a toilet seat and a tarp. This little adobe schoolhouse was our dental clinic and hotel, and we filled up the floor wall to wall with people we didn't even know. It was pretty tricky getting up at night to go. While the dentists were fixing teeth in one room, our daughter Lindsay was showing the kids how to use a toothbrush. None of them had ever had a toothbrush. Many of the adults in the village spoke Spanish and Quechua. The language on the school walls was Quechua. Interacting with the kids was one of the highlights. Look at these cute little boys watching as we repainted the school desks and chairs. We brought electrical power into the school and put in ceiling lights. We also helped install windows. The locals and volunteers worked together. Their homes were very basic, no utilities. They get their water just upstream from where the animals drink, pee, and poop. They cooked us some weird soup, and it was the first time we had ever seen quinoa. We thought it was little worms. We knew then that we had to bring half as many clothes and twice as much food. On our last night there, we handed out a bag of school supplies to each child. They were excited as they waited in line. The local ladies put on a show for us. They danced and showed some of their culture. They even danced with the teenagers and men in our group. The next morning, we got up early and left the little community of Camicancha. Our destination was Patacancha, high in the mountains. We drove up the canyon on this windy dirt road. The people and their ancestors made use of every piece of ground to grow food. There were terraces everywhere. The narrow dirt road, the switchbacks, and the cliffs made for a pretty scary trip. When we got to Patacancha, it was like going into a time machine, back 200 years. They raise and grow the food they eat. They make the clothes they wear. They were fascinated by photos. And young girls were carrying around babies. Notice the knit pants on these boys. Their favorite color is red, and they love their hats. Our kids got a big education. Doug and the other dentists provided dental care. Patacancha is 800 feet higher than Mount Whitney. We made it to our hotel on the Urubamba River. Next morning, we took the train to Aguas Calientes, the gateway town to Machu Picchu. Then it's just a short bus ride up the switchbacks to Machu Picchu. It looked very different when Doug was there in 1970, when he was on his way home from his 2-year mission in Chile. On this New Year's Eve day, it was foggy and rainy. But our 4 youngest were lucky to get to see Machu Picchu. In 1970, you could go anywhere in Machu Picchu. In 1978, it was still pretty wide open. After Machu Picchu, we returned to our hotel in Urubamba, where we celebrated the new year, 1999. On New Year's Day, it was back to Cusco so we could catch a flight to Puerto Maldonado in the Amazon rainforest. The reward for our humanitarian work was a river cruise on the Mother of God River. The cruise boat wasn't exactly what we expected with its cute little Evinrude motor. The resort was, well, a surprise. Our rooms were open-air huts with mosquito nets over the beds. Our kids called them the butt huts. The first thing we noticed is that we were sharing the rooms with wild monkeys. The water in the showers and toilets was pumped out of the brown river. We had to brush our teeth with Fanta or Coca-Cola. The only clear water was what they collected from the rain. One of the highlights was the guided hike through the Amazon jungle. The teenagers found some entertainment swinging on the vines, and some of the boys decided to climb a ladder to the top of a tree. They were greeted by a beehive of angry bees. We nearly had tragic accidents when they flew down the ladder, escaping the bees. As you can see, it was hot and muggy, to say the least. Next on the agenda was Lake Sandoval, famous for piranha fish. Fortunately, no one was bitten and no one went swimming. We met some really cute boys on the cruise back to Puerto Maldonado. Then we flew back to Cusco, then to Lima, and finally home. A trip we will never forget. So now we're on our way back to Peru in May, we hope, as long as the civil unrest stops and Peru is open and Machu Picchu is running again. We thought we'd take one huge, impressive hike because I'm going to be 70.
We've always kind of wanted to do the Inca Trail, and as we studied about that, we found out there's another hike that's a little further, another 20 miles further, and it goes up to 15,000 feet. It's called Salcantay Trek. So that's the one. We've got our plane tickets, we've got our hotels, and we'll see if Peru is settled down enough for us to go. But here we go again.
Nothing can ever change the way I feel about you. I promise I will stay forever close to you.